everyone, welcome back to the Cheap channel, the channel dedicated to all things cheap in the world of fragrances. And today's video is going to be a look at a line of fragrances that are very inexpensive, but they're very different from things we've looked at before. And it actually opens up an avenue of a section of fragrances that have a lot of potential and a lot of hidden gems and things I can't wait to get into. So to keep from the video being too long, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it and get through these as efficiently and quickly as I can. And let's start off with the very first fragrance, which sets the name for the line, and that is Lattafa Ana Abiyedh. So if you've been anywhere on Fragrance Buy or on the cheap side of the fragrance world, you'll know the name Lattafa. They are a Middle Eastern house which specializes in cologne fragrances, and they also have a lot of original fragrances, which I want to get into later, but right now you'll know they are a good cologne house. They've come a long way since when they first started. They're now making very high quality fragrances for almost dirt cheap. 10%, 20% of the original prices of the original fragrances. It is crazy what they can do. They also have a sub-brand called Maison Alhambra, which you'll know did a lot of the Tom Ford private line clones, like the one I reviewed recently called Porto Neroli, which is a clone of Neroli Portofino. So you have Lattafa, and then under them, Maison Alhambra, but they can really be interchanged a lot. They really do make a lot of great quality products. And the one we're going through today is this line, the Ana Abiyedh line. Now, I found out Ana Abiyedh means I am white, and I think Arabic, so very interesting name choice. And it makes sense because the very first one they made was Ana Abiyedh, and it's a white colored fragrance with a white top. And so I guess it kind of makes sense. But it all starts off with this one, and no doubt you've seen this around, and majority of these fragrances, save one, is available on Fragrance Buy, and they're all usually between $15 to $19, which is very inexpensive, especially when you look at the quality and what you can get out of these. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first one is the one that starts it off, the regular Ana Abiyedh. You can see it has a white top on it with kind of that arm off Club de Nuit style studded top with the jewels on, which some people think that's redundant and it's overplayed and it looks cheap, but it is what it is. And on that front, you'll actually have a very nice looking and almost embossed sticker pattern, metallic, with a very nice looking design, which is repeated in different colors across the fragrance line. And you'll see Ana Abiyedh in 2 different languages on the front, and you'll see at the bottom Lattafa, and on the very back you have in glass embossed, it says Lattafa. So, and this is also a very hefty glass. You can see, very thick glass bottom. This thing feels great in the hand, and it just feels like good quality. It'll sit nicely on the shelf, it won't fall over. And it's nothing too fancy, but it's simplistic enough where it looks nice. It's nice in the simple design that it is. So, Ana Abiyedh, when you smell it, it's gonna come across as a very white, musky, powdery, very sweet, fruity fragrance. It is noticeably a feminine leaning fragrance, and we'll get into that all of these are supposed to be unisex, with some leaning more in one side or the other. This one leans more on the feminine side, but if you're a guy and you want to try to pull it off, I believe you can. It's bright enough where I think you can pull it off in any way that depending on the situation, but it will smell very feminine leaning at first. So let's go ahead and get to that note breakdown real quick. On the top notes, you have bergamot and orange. On those middle notes, you have vanilla and pear. And on the base notes, you have musk and amber. So this fragrance, again, comes off very bright, very citrusy, fruity. It is very light, but it's also very, very strong. I'll go ahead and tell you the performance on this is really, really good. It is a loud projector and a very long-lasting fragrance. When I first got it, I sprayed on my clothes and nothing else because it was loud enough. I just sprayed on my clothes because I planned on changing clothes later and I didn't want it to stay on there. When I did change clothes and went back to those old clothes, a week later, it still smelled like this. Now, at the opening, you get something very fresh, bright, again, that fruity sweetness. And as it dries down, it gets a little more powdery, it gets a little more ambery, and it has that very soft musk, but it's still very noticeable. As you know, Lattafa is a clone house, so when they make fragrances, even if they're original, they kind of have a little bit of a semblance to other fragrances. And this line, save one, are all clones of fragrances. Even though they don't kind of look like it, they definitely smell like it. So what's this a clone of? I have heard of this being a good alternative and a clone of Xerjoff's Herba Pura. Now, I also have a personal experience with this smelling like Mancera's Jardin Exclusive, which is also a clone of Xerjoff's Herba Pura. But the difference with this with me is Herba Pura, which I haven't originally smelled, but I have smelled Jardin Exclusive by Mancera. So Jardin Exclusive, it's a lot more floral than this, not as fruity as this. This does not have any kind of floral tones in it. It is just a very musky, bright, sweet, fruity fragrance. Fruit is very, very noticeable. That pear in this is also very noticeable. Once you know it's in there, you can smell it and you're like, yeah, that's pear. Very juicy. It's very, very strong too. So if you want a good Xerjoff Herba Pura or even a less floral Jardin Exclusive by Mancera fragrance, I would highly suggest this, highly recommend it. Again, performance on this as well as the rest of these are very good, but this one I think is the strongest projecting out of these fragrances, and it might be the longest lasting, but it's definitely the louder performer up front. But now this is a very different fragrance from what I was expecting, but I do really like it. Yes, all of these are going to be synthetic, but the quality of this still, how it comes across, is very nice. I actually really like it, but to me it does lean more feminine. So if you want something as a good gift to a girl or woman in your life, or someone who enjoys this kind of style, I would highly suggest getting this. Or if you want to try it out yourself, I highly suggest getting this. Again, the first one, Ana Abiyedh, the original by Lattafa. So now we're going on to the next one in the Ana Abiyedh line, which I believe was the second release, so we'll have it second in this list, and that is probably one you've seen more of. It is Ana Abiyedh Rouge. So as you can tell in the presentation, the juice is colorized. It's a dark amber color, and the top is a deep maroonish rouge color, and you have the name of the fragrance, Ana Abiyedh, but you have rouge underneath it, both in English and in Arabic. So in case the presentation or the name doesn't give it away, this is a blatant clone of Baccarat Rouge 540 by Maison Francis Kurkdjian, which is a very popular fragrance, especially in the niche world, and that scent DNA has been copied and imitated and inspired so many other fragrances. Besides this one, I know that Lattafa has another Baccarat Rouge 540 clone, but I think this one is the better as far as quality and accuracy. But you have so many other clones out there. You have fragrances in the designer world like Ariana Grande's Cloud, which is a very popular women's fragrance, and there's no doubt you smell that everywhere. You also have other things in other clone houses, like Middle Eastern clone houses like Armaf's Club de Nuit Untold. You also have Fragrance World's Baccarat Rouge 540, which is more obvious in the presentation and how it comes across. And you also have Mancera's Instant Crush, which is a very popular niche to designer style fragrance. It does veer off a little bit from the BR 540. It has its own sweetness in it, adds its own Middle Eastern touches to it, but it still at the core has that scent DNA. So there's a lot of clones of the BR 540 scent DNA, and honestly, I think it's oversaturated. But as far as price-wise, I think this is the best that you'll be able to find if you can get it. But when I got it, I think it was only like $16 to $18. So under $20, and I gotta say, it smells fantastic. And in case you're unfamiliar with the BR 540 scent DNA and how this comes across, it is a very musky, candy floss sweet, almost woody. And a lot of people say that the BR 540 scent DNA smells like a latex, like a rubber kind of smell, and which you wouldn't think smells good, but it actually is very pleasant. And not a lot of people may take to this, but I really like the scent DNA, and I like how Lattafa cloned it themselves, and they probably added their own little spin on it, but it is very, very nice. Let's go ahead and go to that note breakdown real quick. On the top notes, you have Nashi pear, kumquat, and bergamot. On those middle notes, you have geranium and caramel, which adds in for that sweetness. And on the base notes, you have ambergris, oak moss, and musk. So as far as the fragrances here, I think this is the most in the middle unisex. The first one, like I said, I think runs a little more feminine, and the rest of these lean other ways too, but this one I think runs straight down the line of being perfectly unisex. If you're a guy, a girl, you can pull this off perfectly. This fits on anybody. Again, you got that sweetness, muskiness. The ambergris is very noticeable in this, and so is that mossiness as it dries down. You have a whole roller coaster from the beginning to the end, and it dries down as a beautiful skin scent. Now, I gotta say, performance on this is also very good, along with the line that we have here. It is a very loud performer at first, of course, depending on how much you spray on, and the longevity is very good, especially on clothes. I would even go so far as to say is that longevity is higher than average, but that also goes for a lot of them here too. They all consistently have good performance. So one PSA I'll give on this fragrance is that the Baccarat Rouge 540 scent DNA, whether you're cloning it or inspired by anything that smells similar to that DNA, has a tendency to make people go anosmic. So in case you don't know what that means, it's when you go nose blind to a scent. It's your body's way of instinctively being able to block out one scent if you're around it for too long and be able to take other newer scents in, I guess, as a self-defense kind of mechanism. For some reason, the BR540 scent DNA is the one that seemingly does it the most. It's quicker to go anosmic to this, and you can stay like that for longer for some reason. When you do spray this on, it may seem like after a while you can't smell it, when in actuality, you've just gone nose blind to it. Because trust me, I've been around people who have worn this as well as other BR540 style fragrances, and they'll tell me that they can't smell it when it is very strong off of them. I can still smell it on them hours later after they apply it, and they'll say, I don't know why, this is a poor performer, I can't smell anything, when really everyone around them can smell it the whole time. They've just gone nose blind to it. So the reason I'm telling you that is because I don't want you to think that this is a poor performer. It will last on you for a long time, but you may just be going nose blind to it very quickly. And so don't take it and want to spray more of it on because you think it's gone, because then you'll be overpowering what you already had on before, and everyone around you, even though you'll smell great, everyone around you might get choked out by it. So just trust me on that. If you do wear this and you can't smell it after a while, ask someone else if they can still smell it on you instead of you trying to do it yourself, because more than likely you've gone nose blind to it. So again, Ana Abiyedh Rouge, an amazing clone of BR540, especially for that price range, under $20 for this kind of performance and quality. Highly recommend it. So now on to the third one on this list, which I think is the last one that you could find on Fragrance Buy, and that is Ana Abiyedh Leather. So presentation on this is the same as the other ones. You have a colorized juice on the inside, but you also have a colorized tube from the atomizer going in. That top is actually a shiny gold color. It's not a matte like the others. And on the front, you have that same stylized sticker, but this one is colored in with a little bit of gold sheen and some black. And you have the name of the fragrance on the front, and you also have leather on it, and in 2 different languages. So, as the name implies, this is a very leather-forward fragrance. However, this is not going to be the kind of leather that you would get in Tom Ford's ombre leather or things that clone that or are similar to that. This is a very dry leather-forward fragrance. It's a very animalic, very wild kind of smell, almost like a dirty leather kind of smell. But let's go ahead and get to that note breakdown real quick. On the top notes, you have juniper berries, pink pepper, cardamom, and raspberry. The middle notes are iris, ginger, and rose. And the base notes are leather, white musk, and amber. So along with that leather, you are getting that dry spiciness. That pink pepper is very noticeable. That ginger also adds a little bit of spice. You got that cardamom, which adds in some spice and powderiness to this as well. It's just in that kind of fragrance. So as far as unisex, I think this one leans a lot more masculine. And this is also my favorite out of the whole line besides the Rouge one. And it's probably because it does lean that more masculine side. This also has a very old-fashioned kind of smell to it, like an older style fragrance smell, very mature smelling. And to me, when I smell this, it takes me to being in an old library in the fall time or the springtime, almost like on a damp day. It just has that kind of feel to it. And again, I already said this, but it has a very dry smell to it, almost like an aromatic, herbaceous kind of leather, even though there's no herbaceous notes in this. It has that kind of vibe to me. So with the first 2 being clones, you'd also expect this one to be a clone as well, and it is. This is a clone of Irish Leather by Memo Fragrances, which is a niche house and a line of fragrances in their leather line. They have things like African leather, Iberian leather, Italian leather, and also Irish leather and French leather and a bunch of other ones as well. But this is the Irish leather clone, and I really smell that name in this, that Irish leather. I expect it to be something that is colder, whether scented, drier. Being in that bookstore wearing a green tweed hat and jacket in the fall or springtime on a damp day. It just brings that to my mind, and being the Irish leather kind of style, I can see that. So performance on this, like the other ones, is very good. You have very loud projection depending on how much you spray on, and a very good longevity. It dries down very nice to that white musk ambery leather scent with a little bit of that spiciness still in there. But I do really like this fragrance. It's gonna be one I'm definitely gonna wear in the upcoming colder months. And when I do wear it, I might give you an update about it and let you know how it is. But again, the third in the lineup, Ana Abiyedh Leather. Now we're coming to the last one in the lineup. So if you've only bought from Fragrance Buy or you looked on Fragrantica, you're only gonna see the first three that I talked about, and you might have thought that that was it. That's all they made was just those first three. Well, I bought the first three, and then a friend of mine sent me a picture of a screenshot he had from Amazon, which had this one, which apparently was an under the radar release. It's the more recent from these. And so I went ahead, scooped it up. It wasn't at a bad price, probably around $20. I really didn't know what to expect this fragrance, but I had an idea based on the name. And that is Ana Abiyedh Poudrée. So presentation is the exact same as the others. It's actually more similar to the third one, the leather one, because of that gold top, which is the same that they had on the other, but the juice is a more pink blush color, which adds in, I think, to the name. And that front is that same kind of design, but it's a solid gold color. The only issue is, if you could tell on this one, is that the sticker is actually starting to peel off. If you barely rub it, it's starting to rub off, which would make you think that this is a fake, but I checked it out, made sure this is not a fake Lattafa fragrance. This is a real one, but who knows, quality may have diminished on the production of this one compared to the others, or something may have been rushed, or it may just be a manufacturing mishap with this batch that I got. Either way, you'll see it, and you see the name on the front and Poudrée on the bottom. So with a name like Poudrée, which is French for powder or powdered, you would expect it to be something that's powdery. And that is exactly what this is. This is a very powdery, vanilla forward fragrance. It almost, to me, smells like vanilla cupcakes and icing. It's just very sweet, very, very, very vanilla forward. And I can't express that enough. When I smell this, it just makes me think of a pink room with powder everywhere. So even though this is unisex marketed, it does immediately smell feminine leading, even far more than the first Ana Abiyedh was. But as you spray this on and you wear it, it does dry down very different. So I wanna go ahead and get to that note breakdown real quick, but I will say that because of how under the radar and new this fragrance is, there's nothing on Fragrantica about it, there's nothing on Base Notes about it. The only thing I could find was on a reseller of Middle Eastern fragrances that had a write-up for this, and that'll be what I'm reading from. So let's go ahead and get into it. It says it is a fluffy, slightly sweet, powdery fragrance full of purity and tenderness, and that is, of course, Ana Abiyedh Poudrée. The sensual scent of roses opens the fragrant concert, which is joined by the oriental spicy touches of Nagarmatha, aired by a bubbly accord of musk. A light swing in the earthiness, that's a herbal note with patchouli and bitterly melting saffron, to be caressed by a vanilla, deliciously whipped mousse with caramel crystals. Honey notes hiding behind velvety amber with some echoes of oud oil are complemented by cocoa soft tonka, whose milky vanilla is further emphasized by the addition of gaiac wood. So that was just a big mashup of words trying to describe what this smells like, but you do get the notes in there apparently from this listed. You have rose, you have Nagarmatha, you have cocoa, you have tonka, you have honey, you have saffron, you have gaiac wood, amber, vanilla, caramel, oud. You get an idea of what this is like, and I did spray it on to see what it was like when I first got it, because I was like, if this stays just powdery vanilla, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. But I sprayed it on, and as it dried down, especially on skin, it was totally different. It dried down to being something that was a lot more earthy, a lot more woody, very woody actually. That saffron comes across very noticeable to that mid. You do get something that is a little smoky, a little earthy, and all the while still keeps that vanilla powderiness through it. But overall, this is actually a very nice fragrance, a lot more complex than I was expecting. I don't know what it's a clone of. If any of you out there get it and you smell it, or even just from the description I gave you, if you have an idea of what it's similar to, let me know in the comments because I really want to know. But overall, this is a very nice, soft Middle Eastern fragrance. It's not overly rosy, not overly floral, even though I do catch that a little bit as it goes through. I definitely would say this is something more for the cold weather, the fall and the winter time. And immediately it does smell very feminine forward, and even throughout it still keeps that sweetness. But I think if you're a guy that enjoys those kind of fragrances, or you like how that dry down sounds, get this, try it out and see if it works for you. And if not, this will make a great gift to someone else. I would immediately say it's very feminine forward, especially in the opening, and as it dries down it gets more unisex but not completely masculine. But again, a great fragrance. I hate that it's a little cheap on the sticker on the front, and that it's very under the radar that discounters hasn't picked this up yet, even though it's not that expensive from Amazon. But again, a very sweet vanilla powder forward fragrance that dries down, very woody, spicy, and smoky. Highly recommend it. Ana Abiyedh Poudrée. So again, guys, here they are, the Ana Abiyedh line. You have Ana Abiyedh, the original, you have Rouge, you have Leather, and you have Poudrée, or the powder one. Again, all of these are very inexpensive. I know the first three you can find under $20, between $15, $20 on Fragrance Buy, and then the powder one I only been able to find on Amazon, but I think it was like $20, $22 if it's still on there. Very good clones as well. The original Ana Abiyedh is a Herba Pura clone. Ana Abiyedh Rouge is obviously a Baccarat Rouge 540 clone. Ana Abiyedh Leather is a Irish Leather by Memo Fragrances clone. And then the powdered, we don't know what clone it is yet, but if some of you have an idea, let me know down in the comments. Very solid performers as well, great in longevity and projection. I think all of these are at least average or above. I don't think they're anything less than that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, especially having a look at a Middle Eastern house that is also a clone house. And looking at these Middle Eastern style fragrances, if you like that kind of style, or you like those kind of fragrances, or if you like any of those companies, please let me know in the comments down below. If you do, if you don't, or which ones you'd recommend, which fragrances or brands you'd like me to take a look at. I love to hear back from you guys on that as always. I love the feedback and I love the comments. So let me know what you're enjoying. Let me know what you think I could do better, or which things you'd like me to look at or review next. And if you did enjoy this video, please consider liking the video. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. There's a lot of video ideas and things I'm trying to work on and plan out that I'm looking forward to in the future, and I'd love to have you along with me discovering some new things that maybe you haven't heard about yet. And in case you haven't checked them out, I try to do a YouTube short every other day throughout the week, so keep your eyes peeled out for those as well. And as usual, guys, that's all I got for today's video. I will see you all in the next one. Be blessed.